All right, so I went ahead and lengthened the rear end of this housing, going with this aftermarket or this other style derailleur here. This cable housing was a little too short, so it was almost making it a straight line. And the entry level is actually, or the entry is actually right here. So if I stick that, you can see how this is going shooting straight up. Then it has to make a nice turn over here. So we were a little too short. You don't want this going into a straight line. You want this to come up straight a little bit, then go into a turn. So if you can get like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of straightness before it dives into a turn, that's going to be better in the long run, because it's just going to cause too much strain here. This guy kind of moves up, goes back down. It was just going to cause a lot of cracking here and prematurely wear everything out. So, and then this guy's going to shove right inside there. And then there's a metal tip, or the ferrule cap. These come plastic or nylon or whatever you want to call them. This one's metal or aluminum, and I think that's going to serve a little bit better. It's actually sitting inside here. So instead of going with that plastic, sometimes the plastic will stick out, protrude out, and then go into a bend, and the ferrule cap will actually start to bend. So if we got some metal here, that might offer a little bit more support. So, and then if you want, it's optional if you want to put some light oil on the cable or some light grease like Buzzy Slick Honey, something we'd use for suspensions. And then you want to make sure that that cable is sitting, the cable head is sitting flush in your shifter. We want that to be recessed in. So this housing is actually stopping right here. And there's no ferrule cap needed because the hole going into this little doorway is super narrow, so it's only enough room for the housing, which is about 4mm. And then our ferrule cap is actually sitting inside there already. He slid off, and just run that back through. And go ahead and tighten up your pinch bolt and you're good to go. Here's another tip I found out. So after you run your cable through, I did have to replace this housing here. You want to make sure that all the slack is taken up. So just with fingertips, I'm not hooked up yet right now with the cable, so I'm just pulling with fingertips, nice straight line, pulling it tight or taut, and then I'm going back to my shifter over here and just kind of going through the gears a couple times. I'm upshifting and then downshifting, and what that's going to do is it's going to help seat all your housing here. So what I did notice is the housing here that goes into the stop right here, it actually wasn't pressed in all the way, because it probably enters in maybe almost another inch or just less than an inch. So this actually got sucked in until it finally hit the end here, and you probably wouldn't have found that out until you were on your ride shifting. You probably would have taken up that slack, and then next thing you know, you're missing probably 2 gears, because when you go to shift, you're just pulling slack up and then you're finally shifting. So get all that slack out of the system now, and then you can go ahead and re-tighten up this guy. And then this is also going to let you know too, to make sure that cable head, your derailleur cable head, is seated properly in your shifter, because sometimes that head, it goes inside the shifter, but then it gets caught on a step and it's not quite seated down all the way. So then that's where you get maybe another lot more slack on the system, and you go to shift, you get 1 click, nothing, 2 clicks, maybe something. That's where that click or the slack develops. So get all that slack out of there, make sure everything is seated. Even right here, make sure that ferrule is seated here, and make sure that your cable or the housing is seated right inside that shifter too. Yeah, because this guy wants to come out. It actually, I just pushed it in and I felt cable pull through, because the system is so tight. And I think what this person did is they attached the derailleur housing, they connected it to the brake housing, so it's actually not running on its own, so it had that stiffness because of that. So make sure everything's seated, then we can go ahead and hook up.
Shutterstock Music.